My name's Guffey, so I can't be messing up anybody's name, right?
ChatGPT was also like, because they're like, it was working with me on where my nerves were, and it was like, nerves are supposed to be at a 5. You're trying to get your nerves to a 2. No, that you're not in a situation where it's a 2. Be happy with a 5 as long as it's not at a 10. I'm like, all right, thanks. Very
Aquanet
professional. Aquanet high.
Oh,
I
I
blew
got the
dry
vision
it in
now.
the whole night. Yeah.
Welcome to another episode of TMG People First podcast. We're here with Anna DiSabato, my co-host Jason Andrade. How we doing?
Doing great. Anna, pleasure. Thanks for joining us today. How you
Yeah.
doing, Guff?
I'm doing well.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be here. These are always fun.
Yeah, glad to be here. So, Anna, I'm going to read off your bio because it's very long and impressive. Anna DiSabato is president of Celtic Property Management, leading nearly 5,000 multifamily units with a focus on performance, accountability, and culture. She aligns ownership strategy with on-site execution, driving disciplined operations and consistent portfolio results. Anna believes in strong teams and clear decisions are the foundation of long-term success in any market cycle.
Welcome to the pod.
Welcome to
Thank
the
you.
pod.
Excited to be here.
Something new we do here on season 2 is we put all the information that we have on you, everything that's out on the web, in ChatGPT and say, give us a walk-up song
Okay.
for Anna.
I like that.
Here's what came up.
I think I like it. I guess we'll see.
This is a good one.
Okay.
Girl on Fire, Alicia Keys.
Okay.
That's a good one.
That was a good one.
Yeah, I'll take it.
I like it.
So
By the way, can we figure out like if we can use the songs without getting
copyright?
like, copyright violation or some type of
I don't know.
artist violation? Because it'd be so fun to do that.
That would be a good idea. Yeah. I love
think
that.
it'd be good.
I think it's promotion, right? Can't they look at it as promotion?
Maybe.
I mean, you know.
Maybe. Alicia,
until you're making a bunch of money, and then they're gonna want their share.
Yeah,
sure. Well,
exactly.
at Alicia Keys, let us know if we can, because Anna is on fire, so we'd love to play her song for you. So hey, we have a tradition that we started a while back, and we always ask our guests, "What's the first thing you think about when you wake up in the morning?"
Yeah. So I am very thankful my feet hit the floor. I lost my dad and sister some years ago, and so that really repositioned sort of my thoughts on life. And then I jump right to my phone, right? Fire, flood, blood in my industry, right? Just make sure I didn't miss anything last night.
Cool.
I'm not on the front, I'm gonna say the front page of the paper. I'm giving away my age a little bit, but I don't want to be on the front line of the story that, I had some major situation happen.
Yeah.
So we called it Flood,
Fire, blood.
Fire, Flood, Blood.
That's like us here in insurance. I mean, we
Sure.
could be saying the same thing.
Oh, you guys almost sometimes, those things can work in favors too.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so what was it like growing up? Where did you grow up before, you're in the boardroom and you're now obviously very successful and a leader here in the real estate industry in Arizona, one of the largest property management companies in Arizona. But it didn't start there. So why don't you tell us what it was like growing up a little bit?
So I'm originally from Chicago, Illinois.
Okay.
And it's kind of funny. I think at least I believe that things happen for a reason. That's just sort of how my life has played out. And I remember being very young and driving past Cabrini Green. And those are famous projects for not, being in the greatest shape or of taken care of as well as they could have been, right? They were newer projects back in a time that things were different. And I remember they were tearing them down. And I was having conversation with my dad just about, what's happening there. And all these families were being relocated out into the suburbs. Shortly after that, I was in high school, and several of those families ended up in my high school, right? Because they were relocated on vouchers to some of the cities we lived in. And it really hit home for me, right? I remember seeing, and thinking that these children were in new environments, right? Far away from where they had all grown up. And I just remember seeing a little bit of disparity and just wanted to make a difference immediately. Following that, there was some changes happening in our neighborhood. And back then there was panic selling with real estate. My father was a barber, and people were coming into the barber shop and telling him, you need to sell your home. The value's going to drop. The neighborhood is changing. And I saw my parents have real fear that maybe really didn't exist prior to that. And they began looking to move, right? And get us out of town. And they were worried about their asset and the value of their asset. And I was young and didn't fully understand all of the economics behind that. But I remember feeling the emotional connection, right, to these kids at school and to what my parents were going through. And you know, later on in life, I decided I wanted to start leasing apartments and I wanted to get into housing because I wanted to understand how it all worked and I wanted to see how I could make a difference. And so it's just funny when I think back to being 13 and having a conversation with my father about affordable housing, right? I mean, and just where I'm at today.
And then we talked about affordable housing 15 minutes ago when you came in the office. I mean, from 13 to now, you're still talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's really a passion for me. I had a baby early in life, and my parents were very, obviously not super happy with me, but supportive and said, you know, you're going to have to make money, right? You're going to have to be responsible. You're going to have to grow up fast. And so they were very supportive, but really pushed me, right, to get into the working world. But I've always been a mission-driven type of person. So for me to be the most successful, I certainly have to believe in what I'm doing. And so this just all felt like it fell in line with my life, along with, you know, the lives of other people I could change.
How old were you when you started in property management?
Well, funny enough, I was 15, and back then, my father had a friend who was a real estate agent, and so she said, you know, just have her come show homes, which really is not against, you can't do that now. But she would have me tour her homes and work with prospects on the weekends that were coming, right, to look, and then she would follow up with pricing and information after that. So that was like my first introduction to touring and leasing. And then my parents decided to move to Las Vegas when I was about 18.
Okay.
So we relocated to Vegas, and I got my first job leasing apartments behind the Strip. So that was interesting, 652 units.
Wow.
Behind in Vegas, and this is early 2000s, late 90s. So lots of A-class properties, so lots of stars and poker players and, you know, show dancers, and you got exposed to a lot of different people.
Oh, that's cool.
When you're growing up, you're kind of getting into the real estate game in a young age, right? How has your leadership skills developed? How have you developed your leadership skills to and through that process, right? How has that unfolded for you?
Yeah, so I was listening to Julianne, who was just recently on, and I really admired and appreciated her story because she talked about dysfunctional confidence. And that's amazing, right? To be able to just feel like I can be a supermodel at 5'3", right? I loved that. I think I was born with confidence, but I'd gone through some tough situations in my life that had slowly broke it down. I was in some bad relationships, didn't make some of the best choices in my younger days, became a mom really early, had a lot of responsibility that didn't really give me, I think, the capacity to be focused everywhere I needed to be focused. So my professional journey has been long, right? I had a lot of mentors that over the years I would just spend time with and watch what they did, saw what their life was like, right? And then try to follow those same things. And then I've really done a lot of education. I am a CPM, so I went to IRM Institute of Real Estate Management to get my certified property manager. And I had to go before it was like fully online. So you had to travel across the country to all the different
Real
classes.
school.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
like
OG
real
property
hard
manager.
school for sure. Not that online isn't a great option now, but I mean, it was very intimidating back then to be able to accomplish getting your CPM. So that was a big deal for me. And then I would just educate myself in everything I could about affordable housing. And now we have LinkedIn. I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. I'm currently sharing my professional journey on LinkedIn because it's really helping me, right? I mean, I want to let others know out there that we're in the same situation as me, that a lot of it is mind over matter, right? And if you can just work to get your mind in the right state, a lot of things follow through with that.
That's fascinating, because I was listening to something the other day, and I can't remember who it is exactly, but the long and short of it is, it was talking about social media, right? And it was saying, basically, we watch people share their highest moments, and people are comparing themselves to their highest moments. So to actually share a journey, I think I'm going to follow you now
I
following your
appreciate that.
journey. Yeah, I think that's
I
fascinating.
already follow her, Jason, just so you know.
But I think it's a wonderful sequence to follow, because oftentimes we get just the high points and
Yeah.
not the
just
real of
false.
somebody's life, right? It's just kind of manufactured, right? So
I think because of everything I've been through, I have a little bit more of a vulnerable approach to my management style. I really try to meet people where they are. And because there were people that believed in me when I didn't believe in myself, and they kept me going, right? And so I want to be that person for others. And so, this has been freeing for me to share my journey on LinkedIn, but it's also been really freeing for even like my team, right? I'll write stuff and then we'll come into our Tuesday morning meeting and the team is talking about, what it is that I wrote. And so I'm seeing them get engaged, right? And what I keep explaining to them is I got complacent. Property management is busy, it's hectic. I had a family, work-life balance really wasn't topic of conversation like it is today. And so I really forgot about professional growth. And at some point I sort of stunted, right? And then I realized one day, wait, I owe people more being a leader. And I want to give people what there were people that gave me.
That's great. Two leadership principles I kind of want to talk about. The first one is what you just described, vulnerability. Are you a natural empath, or did
Yes.
you are? Okay. So for those that aren't like me, I've had to develop this over a long career and over life. My dad passing away really helped me develop this as well. But this skill to feel, this professional empathy is for real. Like every time I give a training or I learn a new sales technique, or I share that with the sales force here, but then I talk about something that happened in my personal life, or I talk about how I failed in my professional life. And they always come up to me after and they're like, yeah, that was really profound when you shared that you failed. I'm like, what? I gave you like such good stuff on the other side.
Yeah.
So vulnerability. But the second one I want to talk about or ask you about, which I'm totally aligned with you on, is because you've posted on LinkedIn a few times and I thought, I thought I was the only one that talked about this or thought about this a lot. It's the skill of discernment. And what is discernment to you in a leadership capacity? What does it mean? And yeah, let's talk a little bit about that.
So discernment is stepping back. It's like a level above judgment, if you will, right?
it.
It's really evaluating everything, even from a devil's advocate side, right? Like, let me look at this from every angle, step back, slowly make the decisions because I have a better view of it. And it comes along with stewardship, like being responsible, doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Jason,
It's such a strong, we talked about this earlier. Guffey and I were talking about discernment earlier, just before we came in. And I just that's a fascinating, there's a lot to that.
it's ancient.
Right. But it's also spiritual. It's ancient. There's just a lot of depth in discernment. When did you feel like you first started down that path, and what made you start moving into more of a discerning area of leadership?
I think it started similar to you with the death of some important people in my family, because then all of a sudden something that's not really real is real. And I think death also makes you think about, you care about the loved ones, but you also start thinking about yourself. Where am I going? What happens when I'm not here? What legacy have I left here, right? Are people going to celebrate what I did here, or am I going to leave something messy, right? And so that started it. That was about 10 years ago. And then my mom, but I fell back into life a little bit again. You get busy, and so you work on your professional growth and being a better person, and then you sort of fall back into different things. And my mom got really sick, and I almost lost my mom. So it was pretty traumatic, right? 3 family members. I'm pretty much down to myself at this point, right? And it really made me think about life differently. And then COVID hit, which was just the final straw of, yes, life is important, money is important, my career is important, but people are important, right? And if you put people first, everything else just sort of falls in line. And it takes a second to realize that, because it doesn't fall in line immediately, because you have to build on it. But once you just keep that mindset going and you keep building on it, then everything else falls in place, because when people are happy and performing and feel appreciated, everything else comes into line. Highly successful people are very driven, right? And sometimes what you thought was a lack of empathy, it's not a lack of empathy, it's just drive. And so I've really learned that opening capacity up in your mind, whatever that's for. For me, I needed to open up capacity to stop being in survival mode, right? I needed to start moving into let that go and what does the future look like for you, right? But for someone who struggles maybe with empathy coming natural, it's about you gaining capacity to be able to spend the time to do that, like this podcast, right? I mean, that's you taking time to become a more empathetic person, help others, right? I mean, it's a lot. I keep boiling so many things down in my life back to capacity. And when we really look at what everybody's doing in life, if we free up capacity in certain areas, if we really want them to focus on something, then what can we free up so that they can put their capacity where we need them?
Yeah. So Guffey and I share the same profile.
Personality.
Personality profile.
Very similar.
Which honestly, a lot of insurance agents and brokers and the most successful ones, it's similar to Julianne's, right? I mean, which is why you're super successful, because a lot of people can't hang in the pressure of this kind of environment, right? The competitiveness, you need to be confident. That's just for a lot of people, that's hard.
But the empathy piece of it, right? I had to work at it as well. I mean, I got to it earlier in life, but because I couldn't.
You had some things happen earlier in life.
Yeah, but I couldn't relate, so it was unrelatable, and that's the part that I had to pause and slow down and say, well, let me just not look at everything through my lens. Let me kind of open that aperture up a bit and get a fundamental understanding of where that person is at, and then that softened me quite a bit.
But you also put capacity there, right? So
Capacity,
and
for sure.
it's still, did you decide rather than do golfing this week, I'm going to spend a couple more hours on reading on better ways, right, to be more of an empath? Or you gave up something, right? Even if at the moment you didn't feel like it. I work with a lot of vulnerable residents, and we do a lot to help them. And then I have a manager who actually comes from a nonprofit background. And one of the things she says to me all the time is, my nonprofit partners don't want to help someone who comes in on drugs. They first want them to go get drug classes. So that really hit home for me because I'm thinking about that and I'm thinking about capacity and my own growth, right? And what really hit home is in order for this person to be able to come and do the drug class so that I can get them off drugs, I might need to get them a food box first, right? Because I need to relieve just one pressure in their life that might allow them to now think where I need them to think, right? And so when we're driven people, we're just everywhere. And we need to make sure that we're taking care of all of those things because that's what makes us feel successful. So I'm always evaluating, I say capacity because it's like, what am I spending time on right now that I could just switch around, build a little bit more capacity for what I want to build on, and then I can always go back to that. And I just apply capacity to everything now.
I love that. And, they did a Harvard study that showed when people kind of elevate or really up their professional game, there's two things that typically happen. One, they give something up. That's number one. And that's exactly what you're saying. You got to give something up because you only have so much energy in the day.
That's right.
So what are you going to give up? Okay. That's number one. And then number two was deepening your why. So if you can really have vulnerability, have discernment, give something up, and deepen your why, to me, that's a pretty nice recipe for growth.
It's like the secret sauce, right? I mean, it's perfection. It's like Dalai Lama status, right? I mean.
So what does day-to-day look like for you now? You're at Celtic Property Management. How many units do you guys own and manage? And what do you what's a day, a week, a leadership month like for you?
Yeah, so we have about 4,500 units now and growing. We do about 1 to 2 developments a year. We have a complex portfolio. We have affordable housing and manage pretty much every program you can think of. We're even one of the first in the state to manage the access vouchers.
Okay, tell us what that is.
Yeah, really cool.
I know what that is, but
really cool. So to make it just as simple as possible, our state was able to take some funding that the federal government moved into from medical essentially to housing, right? And then we were able to apply that in our state to owners, right? To be able to do some sort of voucher programs to help individuals that are more vulnerable. So seriously mentally ill, your SMI, sex trafficking victims, human trafficking victims, right? Any of those things, domestic violence. And so, because the mindset is home, like we were talking about capacity, right? Home is is where it starts. So if you can start to relieve for my residents that are in survival and have dealt with some really traumatic situations, if you could start to relieve capacity, they're going to start to show up in society more, right? Which is what we all need, right? We want them to be productive members of society, whether you decide to work at Walmart or Burger King or a housekeeper or you run a company. Everyone has a place and a position in society, right? And that's how we all function. So if you really want individuals to show up, then you really have to look at where can you relieve that capacity. And so this program really helps to do that because it provides supportive services, right? And then allows them the ability to take some of those challenges out of the way so that intervention can kind of happen and they can focus on coming to work on time and getting their kids to school and, whatever else self-sufficiency things that, they want to do.
That's got to be cool. So how have you seen, obviously you've seen people travel down that journey going from survival to some stability and watching them flourish, I presume?
Oh, absolutely.
What has that experience been like?
I mean, it brings you to tears. There's definitely been a couple of stories that brings you to tears. And it's been a hard journey too, because you also have to be strong, right? To keep a business running, I have to have collections, right? I have to have boundaries in which, we have to act on certain actions to keep other residents safe, right? And so there's a lot of fine balancing of that, but I think that's where empathy comes in for me, right? I really try to manage every one of my situations on a case-by-case basis, which creates a little bit of work because I have to always be worrying about fair housing, right? And making sure I'm not making decisions that impact anybody for, reasons that we're not allowed to. But I still believe in a case-by-case approach, and I document well, and I take everybody's circumstance into consideration before I make my decisions. And I've just been very successful with that approach and saved a lot of families and seen a lot of families, because when they first move in, some of them are struggling and they might have some noise complaints in the beginning or some complaints about, housekeeping, right? And so the type of housing that we do, or a good portion of the type of housing that we do, these are people that would end up back out on the street. And so that's not my goal, right? I house them in order to try to help them take a step up in society. And so my job is always try to figure out how can I keep them housed. So I will always look for services or, partners that can step in to help someone if they're in a situation before I'm resorting to eviction.
I have to ask you about your favorite story. There's got to be one.
Yeah, there's a couple. We have a property called Thunderbird Reserve at Thunderbird, and it has really been one of the most challenging properties in my career. I won the ADOH 2022 award for Housing Hero, which is a big deal. I'm super proud of that award.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's a big, and it's about the work that you do within the state of Arizona for affordable housing and the homeless population, and so. With getting that award, that means that, I have to really be at the top of my game, right? And I really need to be knowledgeable and know what I'm doing in affordable housing and steward that, right? That winning that award forward correctly. And so when I came to Celtic, this property was definitely one of the biggest challenges because we have little over 220 units, pretty dense, right? We built pretty dense, 3 and 4 bedrooms, and a lot of our tenants are SMI with children, right? That have disabilities and some mental health issues too. So, it's been a challenge because you can get a little bit of triggering, right? Because when you have residents with mental health conditions on top of each other, there's things that play into that, right? From the mental health standpoint that can create triggering and more drama or more manager issues that you have to deal with. And so this community is I've seen family after family reunite with their children back in this community, get off the street, become drug, free. We provide food boxes there. They come and enjoy food boxes. We just did a Christmas event, and I've been doing this for 30 years, and you're lucky if you see, 50, 60 people show up at a property resident event, right? I mean, it's just, residents are busy and, they're working, and we had over 600, right? Oh, wow. I mean, the residents really participate with management to make it the best community it can be. And I'm just super proud of it because in the beginning I thought, I don't know, supportive services, we're struggling with finding the right people. And if we don't have the right supportive services and the residents aren't getting the right care when they're in crisis, right, that spirals. And so we've just really worked with the team to hone in and create a group of people that just genuinely care and are very empathetic to the plight and the mission. And we maintain 97% occupancy.
Wow.
Anna, tell us about the Arizona real estate market for renters? I know you said you guys do a lot of affordable housing, but you also have some market rate. I know Arizona's kind of a challenging market for some owners in some ways with concessions and rent, maybe not growing like it was. But what is your take on this year and what's happening, and where do we go from here?
I think this is pretty much a stabilization year. We're just trying to keep the NOI we have, not necessarily making aggressive actions to grow it, and focusing on customer service. Right, our residents, we got a lot of units. Right, Phoenix grew a lot. Arizona in general, we're seeing units across the country, really, and so. It's really about renters having options. And so making sure that you're at the top of your game with keeping good customer service, making sure you're following up on your work orders and your turn time correctly, as well as educating and making sure we're keeping our team members happy, right? This is a tough industry, and we're right in the middle of, tech and human touch points, and where does everything sort of collide right now? And so I think that's a tough time for teams, right? Because they're worried about where is AI going to fit in? How much technology am I going to have to learn? And this is the first time we're working with 5 different generations at one time, right? So
That's
everywhere from
never thought that.
20 to 70, right? So in these age groups, how do you train everybody from the 20-year-olds are very tech savvy, and if you're not tech enough, they don't want to work for you because they think you're behind the times. And then, there's a lot that comes with experience and wisdom of our older age group of workers, right? And so we want to make sure that we're appealing to all and having a culture that fits the needs of everybody.
That makes sense. So you brought up AI. We talked about it a little bit before the show. I'm on ChatGPT a lot, just gaining clarity, my thoughts, trying to understand the industry more, insurance industry, as well as the real estate industry. What do you use AI for currently?
Gosh, everything. Funny enough, you see this on LinkedIn. I preach a lot about AI takes the busy work out, but you need to come with your own thoughts. And I appreciate my kids. When I first started using it, they heard me talking to it a lot. And my 13-year-old came to the side and said, have you looked into the environmental concerns with AI? And what do you think about all that? So that made me start looking into stewardship of proper use of AI, right? Trying to come to it with thoughts and design my picture with good prompts so I'm not wasting energy. But then also all of the nuances with governing it, and I'm following all that now too to make sure that I can make the best decisions within my company. And then, I had my son one day, he heard me kind of reflecting with it on sort of a therapy session, if you will. And he was like, it just reflects you, Mom, right? AI just reflects you. And I'm like, no. So believe it or not, AI will be honest with you. And if you talk to it, it'll tell you exactly, right? If you
say, hey, be honest.
Be honest with me.
Be tough with me.
Yeah. It will be honest and tough with you. But if you also, it's honest. I actually asked it, will AI take over the world and will humankind end? And AI answered me, yes. If humans don't have proper stewardship with the way you manage it, it'll be like any other resource that you'll take the wrong advantage of. So it's all about human judgment, right? And we have that in everything. Cars are a danger. We learned how to operate them properly, right? Yeah. Prescriptions. I mean, there's lots of things out there. It's just about making sure that each person tries to deal with it from their perspective and what they can control.
Yeah, it's like, there was no shipwrecks until they invented ships. There was no airplane wrecks until they invented airplanes. And then you got the internet, and now you have AI. We'll see. But yeah, I'm using it a lot. And too, I'll put the podcast in there and say, hey, evaluate me. Like, what questions could I ask? And it just is brutal. But it's good though.
I don't need AI for that, man.
You already know.
I already know. I'm already brutal enough. So.
But it's a really good tool if you'll let it tell you the truth.
I think what I had to really learn is that it hit us fast, right? Before I knew it, it was like SEO's out. Now it's, AEO. And I'm like, wait, I'm just learning about mastering SEO. And now I have to worry about AEO, but that really forced me to then you have to dive in and really educate yourself, because I think there's a lot of misunderstandings about there. It's pattern recognition. AI isn't necessarily getting smarter because it's, walking away from you and reading a bunch of new information it didn't already have access to, or you didn't make it smarter. It's recognizing patterns. Yeah. And so I think there's a lot of fear when people really understand how it works and how it'll best work with you. It helps you start recognizing patterns yourself, right? And then you can just grow. I've grown so far in the last year based on the use of ChatGPT, right, and AI.
I find it fascinating. both like super fascinating and scary at the same
Yeah.
time. Because there are some bad actors out there, and it just allows them to kind of accelerate, a process as well.
Well, you know what? 60 Minutes just did a story, and there was a young man who committed suicide,
That's right.
falling
I
in
saw
love
that.
with, an AI chatbot. And that really brought some thought for me, because one of my managers was so happy that we brought AI in our company. But then she shared with me part of the reason why she was happy is AI was having a lot of the conversations with my residents that have some mental health challenges that she was once having to have, but now AI is having that. Well, my immediate fear is, what is AI recommending, right? Now, do I have a situation where someone calls for parenting advice and now my AI at Celtic is providing advice it shouldn't be, right?
Yeah.
So I really had to step back and think, I have that anyway with people, right? I have to trust and train people every day, right? And I'm hoping they're going to respond properly when someone comes in and asks them for parenting advice and it's not what they're supposed to do. So I just have the same responsibility with AI. So, I make sure I followed my knowledge base. I make sure I'm constantly in communication with my AI company just to stay ahead of where technology is at and make sure my teams are constantly watching what my AI is reporting and building on that, so we're saying the right things and I'm limiting my liability.
Makes a lot of sense. Now, before we wrap it up, I do want to ask you about teams, because you lead teams, you manage teams, and you've probably been on teams for a number of years. What do you do when a team is misaligned? I mean, do you have a normal process, or do you just kind of feel it? And how do you guys keep chugging in the right direction consistently with some momentum?
A lot of times I have to step back, because when you're misaligned, sometimes you just need to step back for a moment and take a look at, where is that exactly happening? Am I asking the right questions? And then it's about getting the team together. Team building helps, right? You don't have to spend a ton of money. It's just presence, sitting down and chatting and allowing. It's important to me. I want my team to always know they have a seat at the table. Everyone on my team has a seat at the table. And I just really try to manage with an open door. And sometimes that's hard, because just my title, I'll say it and sometimes they still won't take advantage of it, right? Because, I know you're busy. I am just very vocal about trying to put myself out there, so that if you have something important to say, I really want to hear it, right? And then I take action. If somebody brings me something important or insightful, I want to show them that it meant a lot to me, and then I try to take action on that. And then when people start to see that, it starts to help with alignment.
Cool.
What's the next challenge for you?
So, I'm my broker's license. I am in school now, just finished. So I just
Real
have to
school
test.
or virtual school?
Yeah, no, I did it virtual, which, to be honest with you, I wish I would have taken it in class. You've got to be really disciplined with broker school, like on your own, because the information is just not always the funnest. It's just the funnest. It's not the best, right?
Can't
It's not
chat
as exciting.
take your test for you,
Yeah, I know, right? Touche.
Congratulations.
So
That's great.
so hopefully I'll have that here in the next couple of months.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's
I
great.
appreciate that.
Who are some mentors or some people that really help shape your leadership style? And yeah, we can end with that. I always like to hear about people giving value to others and what that does for their career.
I have a woman, her name was Chris Acumen. If she's out there, come find me. I met her when I was 17 and no one would give me a chance. I sort of had high hair and long nails, and I was applying for that 652 unit community that it was with Olin, which they have a really good reputation. They're very
Aquanet
professional. Aquanet High.
Oh,
I
I
blew
got the
dry
vision
it in the
now.
whole night. Yeah. And so I'll never forget, she was a single mom and she interviewed me, and, she said, I see something in you. I've got to polish you up a bit, right? But I see something in you. And she wanted to hire me, and both her manager and her marketing manager said, no way, right? Not at this property. This was a prime property for them at the time, right? High dollar, she just doesn't have the right image. And Chris would say, I will polish her up. I promise I will get her there. And she did. I mean, they ended up letting her hire me, and I spent a year and a half there. And by the time I left, I scored the most amount of commissions. And Chris actually watched out for me for several years. I worked with her. I moved up to a leasing manager, then an assistant manager with her, and then eventually to my own property. And I think about her often, and just sometimes wonder where she's at. She's in Vegas, and she retired, so we parted ways, at some point in time after my career. But I do wonder where she's at today. She really made a big difference in my life.
That's a great story.
Gave me a chance when no one else would.
Sometimes that's all you need.
Yeah.
And that's really cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of course.
Anything that we missed that you'd like to share, or about Celtic, about you, Is there anything else that we missed? I feel like you gave us a lot of really, really good stuff.
Good. Okay. Yeah. No, I really appreciate it today. This was amazing to be able to be. This is my first podcast.
You crushed
So
it.
okay, I'm excited. I want to do a couple more of these. So I appreciate you guys giving me that opportunity.
Okay. Thanks for stopping by.
Of course.
Yeah,
Of
it's
course.
great to meet you.
You as well.